is encourage you to find that chat box. If you're using the Zoom on your computer or the computer you're using, then do just write in any comments any time. So while I talk you through the process of the actual task and the problem solving section and how that's going to work, feel free to just write any comments throughout the whole session. You're not interrupting us. There's no silly comment, no silly question. So go for it and ask any questions. You can either do that directly to me through the chat box or to everyone, as you can see in the chat box at the moment. So maybe Catherine, you can pop it in there and everyone can have a look and see where to direct you right to the chat box. So if you have any questions or queries, then just pop them in where Catherine's just put that comment. So that's really how you can get involved. Ask as many questions as you can. Let's see how much you can get out of today's session, and we'll be really challenging you in terms of getting involved, and we're always really impressed by the first people who choose to kind of talk and write comments in the chat box, because it shows that you're kind of proactive, and that's what we're really looking out for. So do use that function. So really, how will today work? At the moment, we're in the main meeting room, so everyone who's part of the session is in one place, and that's where I'm going to do the introduction to this session. So before we break out and talk about the task, then we're going to be doing a joint introduction by myself and then over to Lucy at EY in a session in a second, and that's all in this main meeting room. And then what's going to happen is we're going to get broken out into 2 different breakout rooms. So these will be slightly more intimate, and you'll be able to kind of speak and get involved in the task in those sections and ask any particular questions you might have. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back into the main meeting room. We're going to work together in a group in those sessions, and then we're going to come back and provide our feedback and choose particular people to feedback from our different groups and get some feedback on that side of things. So that's really how it's going to work. And like I've mentioned, our main aim of today is to get you involved and to understand a bit more about the brand as a whole. So everything will be completely straightforward, and I'll talk you through, just before we get broken out into those different meeting rooms, how that works and what you have to do in terms of logistics on your side. So don't worry about anything to do with that. It'll be really straightforward, and that's how that is going to work. But enough from me, really, I guess, in terms of the introduction and the logistics side of things. Lucy, am I right to hand over to you to kind of introduce yourself and EY more widely?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me okay? I'm sometimes on mute, so have to check. Hi everyone, yeah, my name is Lucy. I work for EY, and I'll tell you a little bit about EY in a minute if you haven't heard of us before. I sit on our student recruitment team, based in London, so I look after kind of all the applications and kind of educating students on the application process, but also about EY as well. So happy to take any questions that you've got throughout as well, and we'll be doing kind of an exercise together, as Ellie mentioned. So I really will implore you to kind of get involved and ask lots of questions, because hopefully I will know the answers. So yeah, I wanted to just start off a little bit and just tell you about EY. Some of you may have heard of us, and some of you might not have. Some people have heard of Ernst & Young. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about us before we break out into our groups. So EY, we are essentially professional services. Now, that probably doesn't mean much to you. It didn't really to me at all when I joined either. But it essentially means that we provide services to companies. So you can see there are 4 things there up on the screen, and I'm going to talk you through. So they're the 4 services that we provide to companies, and I'll talk you through what that means. So traditionally, EY were an accounting firm, so we would do companies' accounts, so make sure that their financial statements were correct, and how much money they were saying they made a year was true, and just kind of checking the kind of financial transactions. So traditionally we're accounting, and then we've kind of branched out into a few other things, and those 3 other things you can see there on the screen. So consulting, you might have heard it as kind of advisory. So that means that we have people that work for EY, that go and work with other companies and help them make their business better. So make it more efficient and make more money, spend less money on things. So kind of just looking at their business model and helping them kind of solve any problems, really. It's all about problem solving. So that's consulting. Transactions. This is essentially where when a business has a big change, so whether they want to buy another company or want to merge with another company, or if sadly they're in financial trouble and they have to they're going under, essentially, we'll help them manage that process. So you might have known previously Just Eat bought Hungry House, and we would then kind of advise them on how that kind of that acquisition would work and things like that. And then finally we have tax. Sounds quite boring on the kind of outskirts, but I promise you it's not. It's very kind of legal based. So if you're interested in law, that's one that could be really kind of interesting for you. And it's essentially, we advise companies on how much tax they have to pay, essentially. So lots of tax laws, but also we work with really high net worth individuals, so celebrities and people with lots of money. So they're the kind of, I don't want to spend too much time on kind of talking about what we do, but that's just an idea of what EY does as a whole. So we kind of provide services for other companies, and we call those companies clients. A little bit about kind of, obviously everyone is at school on the line here, and we have lots of different school leaver programs and work experience and things like that. I won't dwell too much into it, but if you are interested at the end, you can let me know, and I can talk you through a little bit more detail. But we have a work experience week for year 12s, which actually happens in the summer between year 12 and year 13. So will happen actually in a few weeks now. It happened in July. We have a kind of 10-month kind of internship kind of mentor program called Smart Futures, and that's for year 12s as well. And then for year 13s who are kind of finishing school, we have our apprenticeships. We run lots of different types of apprenticeships, and obviously can talk you through that in more detail if you'd like to know. But just to kind of give you an idea of the type of things that we offer school students, but also school leavers as well. And so that's kind of what I wanted to cover about EY. Now, to kind of set up for our exercise that we're going to do together, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, because essentially we look for skills, essentially, when we're looking at people that we want to recruit and want to hire. And that's what every company in the world would look for in kind of someone that in an applicant for a role. So we have identified here 5 really key skills that we look for in applicants, and something that is kind of, I'd say, rare at the moment in terms of application processes, that EY, we don't ask for CVs, we don't ask for cover letters. What we ask is for you to kind of do some of our online assessments, and how you do in those assessments is how we kind of base your score, and then whether you then get an offer to join with us. So these are the kind of 5 key skills that we look for. Now, I've kind of put this on the screen because I think it's really relevant to the exercise that we're going to do together. So I just wanted you guys to be mindful of these 5 key skills when you're thinking about the exercise that we're going to do. So the first one is complex problem solving. So I mean, we always say at EY, there's always a problem to be solved, and that's essentially what any working in any kind of role is. You're trying to solve problems and kind of bring new solutions to the table. So that's one thing I really want you to kind of. It's essentially what we're going to be doing in our exercise as a problem solving exercise. So have a think about that, and then I think that ties really nicely in with creativity. Thinking of new ideas. How can you solve these problems that need to be, how are you finding these solutions? I think these two together go nicely. And when you're thinking about how you're going to solve a problem, I think mind maps are really great. So you can see them on a page, and you're seeing, how creative you can be in getting these things down. So be mindful of that when when we introduce the exercise. Now, cognitive flexibility sounds like a bit of a strange kind of phrase there, but all it means really is being able to kind of adapt the way that you think, being able to, if you're in different situations, being able to think, okay, in this situation I need to do this, but maybe that wouldn't work in another situation, and being able to kind of be flexible in the way that you think, to make it situational to different tasks. Emotional intelligence is something that's really important, and you might not think it would be in kind of an application assessment or process, but it really is. It's all about kind of connecting with other people, and being able to work in a team and kind of have empathy towards people from different backgrounds to you, and kind of just being able to work well in a team, which I think goes really nicely with the final one there, which is collaboration, essentially teamwork. So they're the 5 really main skills that we look for in our application process. So it's not kind of, what experience have you had that you can talk about. It's all about those skills that you can talk about, which can be applicable, from anything that you do day to day, extracurricular activities, things at home, learning new skills, and things like that. So they're the key things that I think, bear in mind, and maybe jot them down or take a picture of this this slide, because I think it would be really helpful for you guys to remember this when we work through the exercise. Just conscious of time, should we should we introduce the exercise, and then are we going to go off to breakout rooms afterwards, or how does it work?
Absolutely, that's amazing. Thank you so much for kind of running through those things. If anyone has any questions as well on those kind of 5 points that Lucy's just gone through, I think they're kind of brilliant examples, and I might have some questions if I was sitting on the other side. So do write them in the chat box if you have any questions, students. But brilliant questions there as well, in terms of like, how is this actually going to work? So really that's where I am going to be playing a big part in that. So just before I talk about the breakout rooms, how that's going to work, and who's going to be in different breakout rooms, I wonder if you could just give us a really quick idea of what we're going to do now is a problem solving task, but what you call at EY is a hackathon. So can you tell us what that means?
Exactly. So the first key skill we spoke about just there is complex problem solving, and that's something that you'll probably have to do in most application processes, and also kind of day to day in your job. I think once you actually get a job, or even if you're thinking about going to university, it's something that it's a skill that you just have to try and learn kind of later life. So what we call it hackathon, but it can be called a group exercise, or it's basically working as a group to find a solution to a problem. So we do hackathons at EY. Lots of different teams come together to kind of think about. So if you think about that kind of square that we looked at, so we had tax, consulting, all of our different ones there, all of those teams will come together to try and find a solution for one client, for instance. So it's using different exercises to be creative and solve a problem, essentially. So that's what we're going to do today. Even though we're going to break out into groups, we'll all do the same, we'll all have the same kind of problem, and it'll be really interesting to see how different groups have different ideas and how we can solve that problem. So I really want you to kind of think about how we can be creative. Don't be shy. Well, obviously I'll talk to you about what the problem is and how we can implement it, but I think it's quite topical as to what we're doing, what we're all going through at the moment with the global pandemic. So I think it should be one that will be quite fun to work with, and maybe you would have already thought of some ideas in the last few months, because it is quite topical.
Yeah, I absolutely thought the same when I saw this example, actually. So without wasting any more time, in terms of me explaining again how the breakout rooms work, you will completely understand it, students. You'll just get a notification in 1 second when I open the breakout rooms. You'll see myself and Lucy in one room, and you'll see Catherine and Monty from Pathway CTM in the other room. So kind of without further ado, I'm not going to explain. You'll get a notification now from me pushing you into a breakout room. All you have to do is accept that, and then we will work through the task. And just like Lucy said, we'll both be doing the same task, the 2 different groups, but we're going to be doing it separately and then feeding back together at the end. So I'm going to open all of the breakout rooms now. Anyone who has any issues, I've got access to the chat box. So if you're not in a room or any issues like that, then do pop your comment in there in the chat box, and we'll sort that out for you. So you should get a notification now, which takes you through to the particular breakout room.
Hi.
Hi guys, welcome to the Breakout Room 1. We're just going to give it a few seconds. I know Lucy's going to talk through the task in a second. We'll just wait for all of those students to be through. And I think that is everyone from our side. Lucy, just before introducing kind of the actual task itself, I'm just going to say to all of the students, if you're comfortable using your camera, if that's something you want to do, in the same way Lucy and I are, and I can see a few faces in there already, absolutely do. It's a great opportunity to kind of have a look and get involved as if we're all going through this in physically as well. If you're not comfortable with that, absolutely fine. There's no pressure to do that. But what we do really encourage is, in a second, what you've already had an introduction from Lucy and I. What I do ask is I'm going to run down the list of students who are in our breakout room. And if you are happy, just give us a name, year group, and kind of school you're from, just to give us a really vague kind of idea of who you are before we launch into the task. So I'm going to start off with Abdurazak, are you comfortable giving us an intro?
Yeah, I'm comfortable, thanks. So my name is Abdurazak. I'm in year 12 and I go to Harris Westminster Sixth Form.
Brilliant. Sanjana?
Yeah, hi. I'm Sanjana. I'm currently in year 11 and I go to Dr. Chalmers High School.
Brilliant, thank you. Skimante?
Hi, I'm Scalability. I'm in year 12 in London School and Sixth Form.
Brilliant. Aditya?
I am Aditya. I'm a year 9 student at a grammar school. Do you want the school name?
If you're comfortable with that. But...
No, that's fine. A Bishop Beasley's grammar school.
Brilliant. So, Anna? Don't worry if not. Charlotte?
Hello, my name's Charlotte. I'm in year 11 and I go to Dr. Chalmers High School.
Fab. Dylan?
Hi, my name's Dylan. I'm in year 13 and I go to Heathrow UTC.
Great. Iman? Don't worry if not. Katie? And then I'm going to whistle through the next. So Nikki?
Hi, I'm sorry.
That's all right, Katie.
Get my audio working. I'm Katie. I'm in year 12 and I will go to Wild Grammar.
Amazing. Nikki?
Hi, I'm Nikki. I'm in year 12 and I go to Dr. Chalmers High School.
Great. Nice to have you. Oliver? Don't worry if not. Rachel Hewitt?
Oh, hello. I'm actually here on behalf of Tolworth Sixth Form, Tolworth Girls Sixth Form.
Amazing. And so Samreen?
Hi, I'm Samreen and I'm in year 12 and I go Lane Grammar.
Brilliant. And Teniola? Don't worry if not. So Lucy, I'm going to hand over to you now. The reason that we kind of do that at the beginning is because we understand it's kind of strange environment sometimes doing everything virtually. We're working as a group and we want to get to know each other. So thank you for those introductions. If you couldn't for any reason, no problem at all. But over to you, Lucy, I guess, for the task.
Fantastic, thank you. And thank you so much for all kind of introducing yourselves. I know sometimes it can be a bit scary taking yourself off mute, so that's really great. And hello everyone, it's so nice to hear from you. So I wanted to introduce our exercise. And so I know I mentioned that we call it a hackathon, but often that you just hear it called as a group exercise. And in interview kind of processes, especially and kind of assessment centres, you'd be asked to do a group exercise, and that's when you come together as a group. You know, it can be 5, 6, 7, 8 people, sometimes even more, to work as a group to come to kind of come to an agreement at the end, and kind of then often you have to then present back your findings and your solution. So it's all about working together, making sure you're speaking, but also listening to other people's ideas and coming together to have one solution and one idea at the end of it. So the one that I thought would be quite good and quite maybe, as I said, topical at the moment is How can we use technology to revitalise healthcare? So that's the kind of broad kind of overall kind of question. And then if we go to the next slide, there'll be some more information about what I mean by this. So hopefully you can all see this. But okay, so our kind of problem statement is, you know, or the question that we're asking here is, how can we use technology to revitalise healthcare? So technology has developed beyond the way the NHS is currently using it. A lot of new tools and solutions are not being exploited to their full potential. As technology grows more powerful, it can enable new ways to deliver healthcare with greater efficiency and at a lower cost to a wider population. Healthcare stakeholders around the world view building medical technology as a business imperative. How can disruptive technologies improve healthcare systems? So that's the question really that we're looking at here. So how can disruptive technologies improve healthcare systems? So that basically means is, what kind of tech can we implement into our kind of healthcare? So the NHS, what kind of technology can the NHS use to kind of better better exploit the potential there? So for example, I know that obviously coronavirus is a massive topic at the moment, and Korea, for example, have a trace and track app, which is, and they actually used it previously, so it had already been built, where, you know, if someone has the virus, they can trace them and then track every single person that has been into contact with that person. Now, they had this app implemented way before coronavirus. It was kind of something that they already had, and you know, what kind of technologies do you think the NHS could have to kind of better use the kind of funds that we have, but also make things more kind of user friendly for the people that are using the NHS? So, you know, it could be anything to from like an app, or, you know, like a video conference service. I know you know, sometimes now if you want to speak to someone or get an appointment, you can have like a FaceTime rather than having to go all the way to the GP, waiting for 3 hours and then seeing the person. So try and think about, you know, technology is evolving so quickly and so fast, and you guys more than anyone here would know that, because it's the younger generation that are kind of up on all the new tech. So I'm sure you know a lot more than me. But what could we implement, and what could the NHS use to kind of make our NHS more effective and more easy for our users to use, essentially? So I've got a method on here that we can all kind of use, and it kind of breaks down the time that we have together. Hopefully you can see that. I'm just going to drag off something on my screen. So what I think would be good would, you know, we'll go back to the slide, or perhaps you could maybe take a picture of it so you have it, you know, to hand, but kind of read through the problem statement on your own, maybe jot down some ideas. We'll just do this for a couple of minutes, it won't be too long, but just to kind of create your own ideas in your head. You know, think about what things you think would work, what kind of technologies would work. And then what we'll do after those kind of few minutes, 5 minutes, we'll collaborate, we'll come together and we'll all kind of discuss, or, you know, we'll try and go around the group and we'll talk about what ideas we have. And then as a group, we'll try and come to an idea that, you know, we think is the best. And then we'll put our idea and kind of then put it in more of a kind of presentation style, and then we'll pitch it back to the others. How does that sound? Good. So perhaps what we can do is go back to the previous slide, Ellie, just so everyone has 5 minutes. So what's the time now? Let's have a look. So it's 27 minutes past. So why don't we, you know, come back together at maybe 31 minutes past. So 4 minutes, have a read through, jot down some of your ideas, you know, whether it's an app or, you know, any kind of technologies. You know, I know TikTok is big at the moment, so we can implement that somehow, but have a think about what you think would work in terms of a new, fun, cool technology the NHS could use. Okay? Of course, yeah, you can definitely use the internet to research. Use any tools that you have at your disposal.
Just had a quick question from, so not to interrupt you, everyone, doing what what Lucy just suggested. Charlotte, it seems that you're having some kind of technical issues. I don't know if that means you can't hear us, and therefore don't worry about responding. If you can hear and you're not able to speak, that's fine, and you can just pop your questions into the chat box.
Ellie, is it possible to get someone else added to our group?
Yes, absolutely. What's the name of the?
So her name is Ria. She's just dialing back onto the main group.
Okay.
Ria
Yeah,
Gisborne.
got her.
Lovely.
Yeah. Great, she should come in now.
Okay, so we'll have maybe 1 more minute to have a think about your ideas. Don't worry, it doesn't have to be a solid kind of, fully thought through idea. Just, some ideas jotted down, and then we'll come together and we'll kind of elaborate and discuss together. Just as long as you have, some form of idea, that's fantastic. So meet there. Okay, fantastic. So hopefully you've all kind of had time to read through the problem statement and kind of have a think about what you think would work, or some fun ideas. They can be completely abstract, and it doesn't have to be something that can be implemented right away, but just any kind of creative ideas or anything would be fantastic. So does anybody want to kick off and think and maybe outline some of the ideas that they had?
Great. Scalability in the chat box. Are you comfortable to speak? Unmute?
Yeah, sure. Well, so I'm just reading the chat box there. Scamante, do you want to pop yourself off mute, and we can just all have a discussion? Everyone will get involved, so don't worry, you won't be the only one talking. But if you would like to kick us off, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, so I was thinking of, since we all have, well, most of us have mobile phones, I was leaning more towards an app. So I thought we could have a health tracking program that asks users to, on a daily basis, enter information like temperature or signs of symptoms like headaches or diarrhea or shortness of breath. And it would be used to predict illnesses early, in its early stages. So in our current situation, that would be predicting possible cases of COVID before it incubates, because then it might be too late and they might spread the disease to many more people. And if they don't have COVID and it's just some other illness, they will probably calm down knowing and feeling safer.
I think that's a really good idea. So it's kind of an app where you kind of pop in your symptoms if you're having, if you're feeling unwell, and then that would kind of track, and we'd have a big database, and perhaps so in that case, would you kind of get feedback on your symptoms? Would it be more of a consultation? Would they say, okay, you need to take this medication, or you need to do this? Would it be kind of like an interactive thing?
I think it could be, because I was thinking more of like AI algorithm type of thing, but if the symptoms are bad, they could get connected straight to like a GP or something. So yes, in a way.
Okay, fantastic. And I love the use of AI there. So that is, for anyone that doesn't know, it's artificial intelligence. So, as Skimante said, using algorithms, or using artificial intelligence to kind of create ideas rather than an actual person. I think that's a fantastic idea and a really great kind of springboard for us to kind of talk about perhaps other ideas as well. So fantastic. Just one thing I wanted to mention actually before we kind of get into really sharing all of our ideas is in a kind of group exercise style, as I mentioned before, it's often the case that you'd have to kind of report back and kind of present your final solution or final idea. So it's always a good idea if one person or a couple of people in the group make notes, so that we can we don't forget all of the good ideas that we've thought of during. So does anybody or does anyone feel comfortable making some notes? Let me know, pop yourselves off mute, or write in the chat if you're happy to do that.
I've started noting a few things down, so I don't mind taking a few notes.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Who was that? I didn't catch. Was that Katie?
So yeah, that was Katie.
Lovely. Thanks, Katie. Okay, I think that first idea was fantastic. Does anybody have any other ideas that we think we could share? So we've got our first idea is more of like a kind of an app for symptoms using kind of AI and algorithms to diagnose, I think is what I kind of understood from that.
I have
which
an
I
idea.
think, yeah, please do.
My idea is that there's an algorithm that you input symptoms into, and they try to diagnose you, and they see if symptoms are serious enough for you to see a GP or a doctor.
That's fantastic. Was that Sean I saw there? Was that Sean that said that? Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Oh, Geoff, sorry. What was the second part of that? So we were talking about an algorithm. Can you repeat the second part for me?
So it tries to diagnose you, and it sees if your symptoms are serious enough for you to see a GP or a doctor.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic one. So taking it that kind of one step further, and then kind of referring you perhaps to a doctor or a GP, or even kind of, if it is quite serious, even hospital. I think that's fantastic. Thank you for that. And also Katie's taking notes, so that'd be fantastic if you could jot that one down. I've got in the comments box here, sorry my mic doesn't work, but I think we can take advantage of social media. I like that a lot. I was actually waiting for that one to come up because I know it's quite, especially with the young generations, and I think it's very powerful. So fantastic. Teniola, well done. Which may people use, so if they need to see a doctor, they can chat to someone online for free in case of situations they're scared of talking to their parents about the problem. Yeah, fantastic. Or they're too busy to physically go into a consultation. If the problem is really serious, they can come in and reducing wait times, and some patients feel comfortable. No, that definitely makes sense. I think that's a really great idea. Thank you so much for typing that out. So I think it's kind of on the kind of the similar kind of vein and similar thought process as the app and the kind of algorithm that we're talking about, but it's more talking about on social media. I think that's a really good idea. And Teniola, what kind of social media channels were you thinking about in this sense? Or does anybody have any ideas of what social media that would work well on? You guys probably know a lot more about social media than I do.
Addy, I saw you raised your hand. I'm not sure if you had some ideas on that one, or maybe a different point, but I saw you just raised your hand. But go ahead and jump in if you have any ideas.
I have an idea.
Fantastic.
I feel as though in our society today, influencers have a huge impact on people's decisions. So I feel as though if influencers are promote I don't know, new apps or stuff to make it a trend or fashionable, I think then lots of people will engage.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I think the power of influencers at the moment can't be understated for sure. And yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea and works really nicely with the social media kind of reach as well. So thank you so much. I didn't see who that was. Who was that, sorry?
Abdurazak.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. So has anybody else got any other ideas that they think could work in terms of... Oh, yeah, please.
And to the previous point about influence, could influencers also make the main symptoms common knowledge so people can easily spot out diseases or viruses quickly?
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, and I like the kind of thinking outside the box in terms of social media and influencers rather than things that maybe already exist in our kind of NHS and healthcare. Okay, so we have another one here. We could add onto the app resources with information on health conditions like videos and frequently asked questions so people can learn more about. Yeah, I think that's really good. Like kind of like a hub for like symptoms and things like that. I think we could create an NHS app. I think that's a really good idea. Yeah, definitely. I like this. Has anybody else got any other kind of ideas that are different to perhaps an app or perhaps social media? Any ideas? Maybe we could think more kind of in the way that we implement medicines, maybe. Or has anybody got any other ideas?
I thought primarily about so the use of these, well, I'm talking about apps again, but the use of these apps will like decrease total expenses. So I thought that this money could then be used in research and development in pharmaceutical companies. So then, yeah, that would help.
That sounds very good, and that's actually something that's so if we could pop to the next slide, Ellie. So something that we have to think about is when we're kind of forming our ideas here are kind of things like cost factors, how much is it going to cost, who's going to fund it, and then if it's taking away costs such as GP costs and things like that, what are the kind of like effects of that happening. So I think that's really great that you're thinking one step ahead. And I think, okay, so we've had about 10 minutes on our collaborate. So I think what we need to do now is, in a group situation, you'd have to kind of decide on one solid idea and one solid solution to then take a bit further and think about in more detail. So should we all vote as to what we think maybe would be the best idea here? So we have the app, so we had like an NHS app, and then we had more of a kind of social media reach. And I also saw here we have we could create a robot that could perform some of the tasks that a nurse or paramedic does. That's a really interesting one. I think that is really topical actually, because I think they're starting to kind of build robots. I mean, personally at EY, we actually build robots to do things like, simple or even complex data analytics. So yeah, I think building robots is definitely something that we can implement. So I think now, looking at the time, let's kind of circle back. And what do you think? Please do take yourselves off mute now. What do you think would be the best idea and the best solution for us to kind of pitch back to the others? What do you think the best one has been so far?
We could kind of combine a lot of these ideas into the app idea.
Yeah, I like that. And how do you see that looking, Casey?
So it could have like different sections for like the resources, the health tracking, putting in different symptoms, and diagnosis, referring on to doctors. You could even have a chat box when you're to consult your local GP, so you don't have to book appointments when you don't necessarily need them.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Would everyone kind of agree that they think that's the a good idea to go forward with? Raise your hand.
I think it's a good idea, but I wouldn't say it's accessible to the whole population. Like maybe for young adults and adults, but not for old people or babies or children. So I feel like if you can modify it to help every part of the population, then it will be a good idea.
I think that's it. Do you mean because obviously it would be an app and maybe like older people aren't so good with using technologies and things like that? Is that your idea there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You could use a website to fix that, so then it would be available to others. They could go to libraries and then use the computers there.
Yeah, so you're saying it could be like a website app, but also an app on your phone, perhaps. So it kind of could reach the further, like a further kind of population of people. So, would everyone agree that would be okay?
Yeah, that would be good.
I think the problem with a chat function though would be that it might be overused and GPs might not be able to perform their primary job, which is physically consulting people. So maybe you could have some an artificial intelligence that would respond to certain comments by somebody putting in the chat. So say they say, I have a headache, it could like we have the automated bots on many websites. It replies saying, here's what to do, and it links to an NHS website.
Yeah, I love that idea, and it kind of links back to what we had at the beginning about artificial intelligence. And you're right in terms of kind of using those resources. We need to make sure, you know, our human resources are used for their primary jobs, and, you know, making, if we can use computers and technology to do, you know, types chat box, for example, and those types of things, I think that's fantastic. Yeah, for sure. And so we've got now, let's circle back. So we've got an app, but also would work on kind of the internet that has we've got 2 minutes left?
Yeah, 4 minutes.
Okay. Oh, sorry, yeah, I thought it meant 2 minutes 50 seconds. Okay, so we've got 4 minutes left then. So Katie, are you still taking notes for us?
Yes, I'm still taking notes.
Fantastic. So so we've got our app then that can be used on websites as well, so it can have that kind of older reach, and we're using kind of AI as the chat function to make sure that we're not using kind of your precious resources with GP time, and it has, you know, different, you know, those different capabilities on the apps as well. So let's think about now who is going to use this. So what are our stakeholders, and how are they impacted, and also what will the benefits be of this app? Let's think about the benefits here.
I think the people that would probably use it are more 30 to 40, 50-year-olds who have to go to work and probably can't afford to take a day off to go have an appointment. So maybe just when they're traveling on the train, they could put a message on the app, and it might be rectified by the GP.
Fantastic. And who else do you think would use this app? Do you think it would be kind of implemented across the whole of the UK, or just certain age groups? What do you think would be best?
Maybe with people with pre-existing health conditions, because of the health tracking app, they can put in their symptoms or anything that's wrong, and the AI can assess whether that's normal or whether that's a problem.
Fantastic. Yeah, definitely. I like that. What does everyone else think? Do you think it should be kind of available to everyone, or just those with kind of pre-existing health conditions, or kind of certain age groups? What does everyone else think?
I think that it should, to begin with, be available to people with pre-existing health conditions. This is most cost-effective option, and then think about scaling up afterwards.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up scaling up, because that was my next question, actually, just for us to kind of think about before we go back into the main room, is, you know, is sustainability and scalability. So I like that idea of you saying that, you know, we start off small, and then if it works well, we get bigger. Is everyone kind of agreed with that, and kind of like scalability size? We start small, and then if it works, we get bigger?
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
And I think if it's a really successful idea, then it could be made like one of the mandatory apps that have to be downloaded when you buy a phone.
Yeah, I love that.
And also, I think it would really centralize all the information. Because you asked for the benefits of the app. There are already some apps that Samsung and Apple have made, where they use like the back of the phone near the camera to measure your blood pressure and your heartbeat. So if it was made that you had to do that once a month or once a week, then the NHS, when somebody comes into a hospital or a general practice, then all the data would be on the computer, so that they can see, well, you've had a very, very fluctuating BP, let's check it, and let's see maybe what problems you have that is creating the fluctuations in your blood pressure.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm really conscious of time. I know we've only got 1 minute. So is everyone happy with our kind of app/website idea of, you know, diagnosing and starting off small and then scaling up? Everyone happy?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We're supposed to name it.
Yes. What do you guys think the name of your idea should be?
The digital wing of the NHS, I think, is called NHSX. So maybe you could just call it NHSX. Maybe, I don't know.
NHS. And any other ideas? No. Okay. Should we go with NHSX then? Everyone happy with that?
You could also name it something simple that just states what it is. So like health check or something like that, so people immediately know what it does.
Okay, so should we do a vote? Should we call it NHS Health Direct or NHSX? What do we think? Let's do a quick vote. Healthcare Direct, we've got there. Okay, we've got one of each. Okay, another Direct. Okay, 3 NHSXs. Okay, so I think, okay, so it seems like NHSX from the comments that are coming in. Okay, yeah, that's a good point, NHS. Okay, so it seems like NHSX has more votes. So if you're happy with that, let's go with the majority and we'll go NHSX. Fantastic. So I know Katie's made some notes. So we'll now go back into the main chat, will we, Ellie? And we'll listen to the others' ideas and we can present ours as well.
Absolutely. So just one person then from our group to feed back. I don't know who wants to do that. So anyone raising their hand or first person to call out, I guess. And I'm closing the rooms now, so someone's going to have to decide in the next 1 second.
Okay, Katie said she doesn't mind, and that works well because she's taken some notes. Perfect, thank you, Katie.
Great. Well, we'll see you all back in the main room then. Brilliant. Everyone should be filtering back into the main room now. I think, well, slightly biased as I was coordinating and being in the other room, that I know that left us with a bit of extra time. So well done to Lucy's room for everything that I saw in there. And I think what we're going to do now, just while everyone's trickling back in, Catherine, do you want to kick off with your room? Give us a bit of a summary of how it went and yeah, take it from there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I feel like I say this every week, but my team did really well. And I think with these tasks, it just takes a little bit of time to sort of digest the task. And then as soon as one person comes up with an idea, then that's it. Everyone's creative juices are flowing. And that's definitely what we found in today's session. I'm now going to hand over to Nana, who is going to feedback our idea and what we came up with. So over to you, Nana.
Hello everyone, my name is Nana. So as a team in Catherine's team, what we came up with was a pitch or an idea for a remote collection. An example of this would be, for example, collecting a prescription from the GP and taking it to the chemist. We said that this is a brilliant way to reduce the time for the patient or the person who is actually collecting the prescription, because it reduces the time for the patient and it's a quick and effective way of collecting their medication. We also said that this prevents the safeguarding issues of, for example, I feel like everyone has gone through this experience where you actually have to state out where you live, your name, and like sometimes like what the problem is. So I feel like that saves people the embarrassment, and it kind of protects their privacy and confidentiality problems. We said that this remote collection can be accessible on all apps, on all platforms such as Androids and on Apple, for example. This is a good way. So the remote collection is such a good way, especially in this current time with the coronavirus, and especially with a contagious disease. The remote collection is a brilliant way for people to kind of not have that personal contact with people, and sometimes people don't want to leave their house because they may be at risk of catching a disease, for example. So if we use like the coronavirus in this current climate as an example, is a brilliant way. The remote collection is a good way to kind of, maybe you can put in place someone delivering the medication to you. And also, yeah, we said that the stakeholders that may be interested in this would be the actual GP, the chemist, and younger people, because like we said, sometimes you have to wait outside a long line to collect your prescription. And I've been in a line for 2 hours, and that's so long for like a small amount of medication, like maybe like one box of like cough medicine, and it's just like ridiculous. So if they know what you need, it will be easier for you to kind of get your prescription and go if that is what you want. But we kind of said the people that won't like this idea kind of will be like the elderly, because they actually want, I feel like, well, I'm not really old at the moment, but I feel like elderly people like to actually have that personal contact with people, because sometimes they may live by themselves and be lonely. And so maybe that personal contact is good. But yeah, we said that the remote collection is a good way to kind of reduce the risk of catching a contagious disease, and safeguarding the issues are protected. And yeah.
Brilliant. That's amazing. And I think actually, which is really brilliant for the exercise, Lucy, our room kind of had quite a different approach, didn't they?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if so we have the lovely Katie who's going to talk to you guys about our idea. Maybe then at the end we can circle back and talk about some feedback.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So Katie, would you like to talk to the others about our idea in our room?
Yeah. So we came up with the idea of the NHS X app, and this app would be accessible on the internet via a website, so it really widens the amount of people who can access it. You can not only find it on your phone, but you can go, say, the library and go onto the computers there, and you can find it there. And this app, basically, it has lots of different features. It has a chat function which uses AI, so you can ask questions to do with your health and you would get replies back. So then you can assess whether you actually need to see a GP or whether you can deal with this on your own. And it will give you advice how to. And you can also track your health by putting in your symptoms, what you're feeling every day, and it will show like a trend. And this could be used to, it will be stored in the database, I think we said. So other hospitals and that can access this info, so you know, so they're aware of how you're feeling. And it just help with diagnosis. And we would aim this at, firstly, people with pre-existing health conditions to begin with, because it's more cost effective to start off small this way and to target the people who would really benefit from this. And then from this, once we've gained more people, we've gained more resources, you can scale up and include a lot more people, such as people who go to work but can't afford to take time off for appointments. And yeah, that's basically our idea.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Well done for both those responses. And Lucy, I know we mentioned kind of we'll circle back and see now. And I guess what will be really good to hear is, how did you find the room? What would your feedback be in terms of kind of approach to these kind of tasks, and in your kind of position, what do you look for really?
Yeah, definitely. So I just turned my camera. I just had to get my charger. My phone was my laptop was dying. Yeah. So did we have a third group, or is that was it just two?
Just the two main groups.
Just the two.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I think feedback. I love the fact that both of those ideas were so different, and I think that really shows how, you know, different minds and different kind of creative thoughts come together to create something so unique. So that's really fantastic, and it's exactly what I wanted to show you guys, and you know, those kind of creative juices flowing. So thank you so much for everyone that got involved, and they're both fantastic ideas. So on the screen here, you'll see a couple of kind of questions and things for feedback. So I think when an assessor is kind of looking at someone or a group of, you know, for that group exercise, they would think, okay, how original was this idea? Because if it's something that, you know, already exists, And it's just a carbon copy of something. It's not really much of an idea hack because it's already been created. You're just talking about something that already exists. So I think the first thing is, how original was this idea? And then there's a few more things. So EY's motto is, building a better working world. So I think you would always kind of circle back to, how is this going to improve the already existing world? How is it going to improve what already exists out there? What are the benefits of it? And I think both of you that just presented your ideas really covered who would use it and what the positives of it are going to be. So that's fantastic. And of course, how it could be done. I don't think we had so much time to think about how this could really physically be implemented in real life, but if you have more time, that's something that you could think about and really kind of hone down into, how could this be implemented into real life? What, who would build it? All these different things, who would have to be involved to make it actually happen? And then, is it sustainable and scalable? And it's something that in our group we talked about, kind of like starting small and then scaling up. So that's fantastic. And then finally, just the quality of the idea and the quality of the message as well. What is this idea going to bring? And of course, kind of bring it back to creating a better working world. So some really, really good ideas there. Thank you so much for everyone for getting involved. I think I'm really impressed, and I hope you've kind of got an idea of what it's like to kind of work as a group. Obviously it's a bit difficult, we're online and we're virtual, and it's a lot easier when you're all in a room and you can all kind of bounce off each other, and but I hope that's kind of given you an idea of what a group exercise would look like. I think often the groups would be a bit smaller. I'd say maybe 5 or 6 people, so it is easier to kind of contribute and really get involved and bring your ideas to the table. I think something that's really important in a group exercise, there's always got to be someone who takes notes, and there's always got to be someone that kind of watches the time and okay guys, we've got 10 more minutes left, and there's someone that's kind of mediating. So if you're more shy and if you're more of an introvert, there's always those roles for you there to do. So just be mindful of that as well.
Absolutely. I thought that was brilliant. I loved getting involved in that, and I was really kind of impressed by the interaction in our group. But definitely kind of thinking about those ideas and how you can maybe in those more intimate groups think about what your role might be. As you say, Lucy, that's a great takeaway for today. So firstly, I guess, Lucy, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for running that exercise and the support on that. I know that we've had some really good feedback already coming through on the chat box. One quick question, then I am quite conscious of time, so I'll wrap up. But from Alex, a quick question for Lucy: how often do assessment centre exercises not have a clear financial budgeting element of them? So today, isn't that? Yeah.
So does that mean, Alex, in terms of, how much money would this cost to implement, and kind of thinking about the financial impacts and financial factors? Is that what the question means?
All the ones I've seen so far have always sort of have some sort of budget and costing elements. I mean, numeracy isn't my particular skill, but when like showcasing with trying these out with my own students, I didn't know whether you always had to have that element or not.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely, I kind of shortened it a little bit because of the time that we had. Usually they'd have a bit longer to think about this, but I think it kind of fits in nicely in the kind of point of how would you implement it. And I guess factors like financial factors, who's going to create it, who's going to fund it, things like that would definitely be something to think about. Yeah, for sure. I'd say not all of them do, but I think it also depends on the sector that you're going to go into for. So if you're, for example, going for like a banking or like a financial role, I think that would have more of a kind of focus.
Amazing, thanks. And a good kind of point for everyone to think about, I guess, beyond all the things you've learned today, what other elements you can be bringing to your answers in the future. So yeah, brilliant session. Well done everyone for kind of joining us and staying on and staying kind of really engaged in those different rooms. We were always impressed. If you do have any questions for us on today's session, then do email us at student@pathwayctm.com with your name and any questions that you have, the fact you've been on today's session. Do follow us on Pathway CTM Instagram account, because we're continuing this conversation about today's session and any ideas on that Instagram account. So do follow us, and everyone will get a follow up from today's session. So well done for joining us, and the conversation doesn't stop there. Do feel free to add Lucy on LinkedIn, and Lucy, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for your time today. It's been brilliant, and we look forward to seeing those of you who are joining us for our daily session at 2 p.m. tomorrow.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. It was lovely to meet you all. Goodbye.
Bye.